Yep, working. I know there's one that doesn't work. Check, check, check.
If this one works, we'll switch you.
No batteries. Oh, okay. Okay, good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Zoning Commission. Today's date is April 22nd, 2019. It is 6:01 p.m. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask those present turn off cell phones or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet upon the front table. I would like to take a moment to review the procedures that the Commission will follow tonight. First, the Commission will handle the normal housekeeping agenda items. Then for each application on the agenda, I will open the public hearing on the item. The Planning and Zoning staff will then present the staff report, including the staff recommendation. Any letters or other communication received from the public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present his or her case and respond to the staff report. Next, we will hear comments from the public. If you would like to speak either in support of or against the application, you must come to the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the Commission. The Commission shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the Commission. The Commission will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any Commission member who has an ex parte communication to place in the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of the deliberation of the respective agenda item. Having said that, the first item on the agenda is any citizen wishing to be heard regarding a non-agenda item. Yes, I will try to do that. You bet. Thank you. Do we have anyone that has a non-agenda item that you want to speak to? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to item number 2, approval of the minutes of the Commission's March 25th, 2019, I'm assuming, meeting. 2019. Correction on that one?
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Okay, the minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is Hillside Acres Addition Minor Subdivision Proposal. Dan, do you want to read that information into the record, please?
Yes, Dale and Sheila Gernhardt proposed to subdivide 49.45 acres into 3 lots. This property is zoned agricultural estates. The property is located in a portion of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter and part of the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 21, Township 88 North, Range 47 West, which is the Woodbury Township of the 5th principal meridian of Woodbury County, Iowa. The parent parcels are known as GIS parcel 8847213510002 and GIS parcel number 88721301001. The current and proposed use of the parcels and structures are permitted under the Woodbury County Zoning Ordinance 2008. This proposal has went up for extraterritorial review as this property is positioned less than 1 mile from both Sergeant Bluff and Sioux City and requires extraterritorial review from Sioux City as it being the closest to the incorporated location under Iowa Code Section 354.9. On Monday, April 8th, 2019, the Sioux City Council adopted a motion to approve the Hillside Acres addition under their reported file number 2019-0014. They indicated in their minutes that no protest were received, the hearing was closed, and the proposed resolution adopted on motion by Scott, seconded by Moore, all voting aye. As following subdivision requirements, this was published in the Sioux City Journal Legal section on April 12th, 2019. The property owner notice, the 45 property owners within 1,000 feet and listed within a certified abstractor's affidavit were notified by letter of the public hearing. As of the printing of this packet, the Community and Economic Development Office had not received comment from the property owners as of the April 15th date. Of course, when more comments, information are received, they would be provided at the meeting as some supplemental materials have been placed before the board. The agency stakeholder comment, on page 5 of the packet, you will see a listing of various agencies that were provided with copies of the plating and asked to make comment. Again, as of the printing of the packet at April 15th is what this reflects here. And you'll see various comments provided by the agency within the packet. Today is some supplemental information. I'll first point to the county engineer, Mark Nara, provided on April 29th, 2019, a review memo, as the county engineer has a role in looking at the plat and offering a set of recommendations. And I'd like to read what Engineer Nara has placed in the record. He has said that the Secondary Roads Department has reviewed the information provided, and he's offering the following comments. Looking at the plat and the legal description, they have found an error in the boundary description on the last line. The line call showed a distance of 1332.59 feet for the final line back to the point of the beginning. The plat did not close. When we use the distance of 1322.59 feet as shown on the illustration of the plat, our check and enclosure on the plat was found in compliance with the requirements for the full subdivision of 1 and 10,000 as required by section 355.8 of Iowa Code. He basically states prior to approval of the plat, this item should be corrected. He also states, I've reviewed the parcel for access. The existing driveway can serve lot 1. The driveway serving the ingress, egress easement can be used with repair. This driveway was widened prior to the owner filing an earlier conditional use permit request using a corrugated plastic pipe. The county agreed to this widening as a temporary measure when the property was proposed to be used as a borrow area, with the condition that extension would be removed by the contractor when the property use as a borrow pit was finished. The borrow pit was not approved, which should have also resulted in the removal of the plastic pipe extension. The replacement of the plastic section should be a condition of approval to bring the driveway into compliance with county requirements. The owner should contact the county engineer's office to sign a permit for the widened driveway, pay the necessary culvert pipe and ban needed to maintain the widened driveway. Erosion control will be a critical part of the process of building anything on lot 2 and the easement. Slopes are very steep and prone to erosion. Adequate erosion control will be necessary to prevent soil from leaving the property during future construction. The proposed access easement exceeds minimum right-of-way requirements for a curb and gutter roadway that could be accepted into the county road system if additional development and appropriate paving occur. The proposed access layout keeps all options on the table for future development of the parcel, including the property north of Lot 2, since both are being served by an access easement that is adequate to allow development of a street to serve those lots and property to the north. That said, without substantial grading, The road would have very steep grades and future improvement may be precluded based on how each lot served by the easement is improved with home construction. Some provision for stormwater runoff should be provided on the access easement to avoid water running down the hill and spilling out onto the road. This will be challenging due to the topography of the lot, but runoff onto the roadway has a potential to cause problems for Glen Ellen Road unless the water is diverted before it reaches the county road. I have no further concerns or issues with this. If there are more questions or issues that arise later, please contact Mark's office. The other piece of communication that we received was from Neil Stockfeld of Woodbury County Soil and Water Conservation District, April 16th. He stated, this property was subject to scrutiny 4 years ago in April of 2012 when the Gernardts wished to establish a borrow pit on the ridge between Glen Ellen Road and Glen Ellen Watershed Structure Site 3-2. Woodbury County and Woodbury County SWCD are co-sponsors of the Watershed Protection Program in the county and should be jointly concerned with protecting federal and local investment and flood control measures represented by this project. In 2015, the WCSWCD submitted a letter of comment, which I have attached. Some of the same concerns exist with the proposed subdivision in regard to proper sediment control measures to be implemented in the course of any development, which may occur on 2 new lots. Lot 2 at the top of the hill generates the greater concern because part of it will drain to the north and into the pool of the structure. Please contact the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Office in Sergeant Bluff with questions of any references listed in the letter. The WCSWCD wishes to stress the need for the type and extent of erosion control measures referenced in the attachment should any development or disturbance occur on the property referenced in the proposal. And of course, attached to that was an April 28th, 2015 letter, which was basically the comments that were submitted at the time of the conditional use permit for the borrow permit proposal that was authored to the Planning and Zoning Office. And basically it addresses much of the soil and erosion based issues, and that letter of course is available there to the board as well. I would like to point out that in the packet on November 27th, Mark Nara offered very similar comments in terms of the lead up to the subdivision proposal. And basically, in terms of the staff, we looked at it in terms of course, the layout, in terms of the zoning district dimensional standards, and we do recognize that the third lot, the one farthest in the back, would be construed as a flag lot under section 4.04 of the zoning ordinance of 2008. And a lot of it has to do with the design and the layout of the land is why they have chose that particular design. It says in the packet, in the case of the proposed lot 3, due to the design of the neighboring lots, the flag lot with a 71.07 feet entrance enables adequate access to all of the existing lots with an easement for lots 1 and 2. And we would reflect what County Engineer Nara has stated in his letter based on the basic level of access. And going back to the last paragraph that County Engineer Nara had cited there in terms of the proposed layout and access, it kind of looks like it quite depends on where they intend to go based on the subdivision. So there would be, the access there with the 70 feet to access the lot. And so there would be decisions down the road to make in terms of of course, the erosion control measures and of course the access to the lot. So it kind of depends on how far the subdivision would go in terms of a future development, as Nara had cited there. And so, with the exception of that, the lot does pretty much follow the zoning district standards in terms of lot size and everything. But we would associate our comments and recommendations with what County Engineer Nara has stated in his statement.
Questions or comments from the commission?
I would bring up the statement from Mark Nara on November 27th of last year about the utility easement, separate utility easements should be provided outside the access of the easement. Did you, was that part of the plan?
Some of this I would kind of recommend that we ask Scott, the surveyor, as well. I'd
Okay.
recommend some of those questions to Scott.
Okay.
Scott Gernhardt, True Engineering and Land Surveying. And as far as that utility easement, at the time, currently as the property sits, lot 3 in the back is a 40-acre parcel, and it has an access easement through the eastern portion of the 70-foot easement. And I think he wanted that utility easement outside the existing access, and then we changed the layout to include the 70-foot piece with that back lot.
So where's the utility easement at?
There's no proposed utilities at the moment, but if there was,
It could fit in there.
it could easily fit in that
Okay.
70-foot. We widened it. It currently is 30-foot. We widened it to 70 to accommodate if that would ever happen.
And they actually, curb and gutter, they require what, 60 feet if that were
If
to
you did
happen?
curb and gutter, you could get by with a 60.
60, and then there'd still be a 10-foot utility easement is,
Sure.
okay.
So can I talk to you about erosion control then?
Sure.
What do you got planned?
There's no plan for development right now. There's a house that sits on lot 3, a house that sits on lot 1. And essentially the purpose of this is so that they can sell the house on lot 1. And they wanted to keep as much land as possible, so that brings lot 2. If someone, I don't think they have any plans to sell it or build a house or anything, if that would happen, then we'd have to handle that erosion, or the builder would, I guess.
I'm sorry, I took over a little bit.
Oh. Glad you did. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Well, they're saying this line doesn't close.
It's just a legal description on the,
There's,
I know, but-
it's correct on there, but it needs to be revised on the legal description.
Well, he's saying that Nara is the one that's saying it, so I'm just bringing that up, so.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
oh, the culvert too. Do you have plans on changing that out or not?
I think they would plan on removing it.
So just totally remove it.
Removing, they put an extension, there was an existing culvert, I don't even know the material, if it's CMP or what, but then they were gonna do the borrow, and the contractor extended it with the plastic, and he never removed it. So that can be removed, and it'll go back to the original narrower width.
So if I'm not mistaken, the county actually does that. Am I right? Have you experienced
I believe they put all
that?
the culverts in, that's correct.
They have to, they might have allowed the contractor to do that in that case for the temporary use, but they do require that they install the culverts.
Right.
That's, I think, what he was addressing, if that was to be left as a widened driveway, that would, the plastic would have to be removed, the metal would be put in with a band, and then,
And there is a shorter portion of the metal, and then the plastic was added on, and I think that they had put a 10-foot section, I think it's 10 foot they added on. they added.
What
10
is,
foot.
is the metal 20 foot or, okay.
That sounds about with the width of the driveway.
Is that on the driveway going back to your house, or is it on the driveway on lot one?
Lot one, yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's on lot one, so there's two driveways there, so what, it doesn't even have to be removed as far as that goes.
Except that,
I mean, he can remove it, if there's two driveways there, it's just, they widened that second driveway. The driveway going up to his, up the hill is nothing wrong with that.
And the culvert was only there because the owners before kept horses and pasture there. And they put a little lane across there so they could back up the truck and put their horses in there. And they had a gate on the fence, like, we never used it, but that's what it was there. And then when they were gonna move the dirt, that's when they wiped it out for their own purposes. We never used it, we only had it.
I'm assuming the reason he addressed it was the fact that it's going through subdivision, so he probably brought that up, that it needs to be in compliance. And it sounds like either ripping it out or putting the metal back in if you want it wide. Either or would fall within the county's stipulations. I mean, you have a choice you can do. I think he just doesn't want to leave the plastic culvert in if the subdivision's approved with the widened driveway.
All in that area where the county was out there, when we had that flooding a few weeks ago, some of the, we were actually out of town, some of that ditch washed away, and God was going to get up there lane, because it's all right. So, county's out there.
Okay. Trying to see that. Where did these?
We have
I
no
was
further
just going to
questions?
bring this up to clarify that the only reason this came to light or came up was the fact that the conditional use permit wasn't approved, but the culvert had been put in, I assume at that time, by the contractor. And the only reason that the county allowed the pipe to be put in at that time was in preparation of the conditional use permit. And what he's saying in his paragraph here is, since the permit wasn't approved, the contractor should have removed the pipe at that time. I think that's what his concern was. At least the letter he sent to us is what it sounds like, so.
Any other questions or comments? Ready to make a motion?
what do you think?
Yeah, I would make the motion that the subdivision is approved with the clarification that the utility easement, there's widths there adequate to provide for that now. And also that correction in the boundary description.
Yes?
And
The-
in the
but
event of any development of Lot 2, that the erosion control measures for building on that site are implemented accordingly to provide for that. And then,
Can you mention the plastic culvert?
I guess, and then also the other thing would be just that it's reviewed and approved by the county engineer. Whatever steps, I mean, they may just want it ripped out, they may, I don't know.
Timeframe that we need to get that done. I think that's when we were, I think when they did it before, we thought the contractor was going to come back and take care of it, because it wasn't approved, but
I can't say that there's a time frame. I guess if we include that, then we can approve the subdivision, and then that can be fixed, versus saying nothing about it might cause an issue with the county engineer on that site, on that drive. What's that?
It's not a major problem.
And like I said, I'm willing to make that motion that it's just met to their approval, and I assume that it can either be ripped out or an addition, a steel culvert added if you want the wide driveway left. I would assume that either one would probably satisfy the county engineer's concern.
What's the diameter of the county's requirement?
What's that?
What's the diameter of the county's requirement for a
On that, I would have to defer to Mark, but under where Mark in his second paragraph there towards the bottom, he would expect to be contacted, and he would work with them in terms of what needs to be done to meet the requirements.
Right, so that's, if we leave this as a motion to approve it based on it's just met to the compliance of the county specs. And like I said, I don't know what the diameter is gonna have to be, but if you want it extended, it sounds like he'll let you do it with a metal culvert and a band, or if you want to just remove it. Those two options seem like they're available, but, so if I leave the motion as to meet with the approval of the county engineer, and then I think that would allow us to approve this subdivision and move forward for you on that end of it. Did you get my motion? Sorry.
Yeah, basically everything the engineer said.
Basically, if I heard you mention, adopting the clarification of the utility easement, the erosion control measures be implemented and be a part of it as a condition of approval, and of course, contacting the county engineer and working with his office on the culvert situation, and of course, there was
Boundary description
Correct.
correction.
boundary description correction.
Correcting the survey boundary description. Mention was also of erosion control.
Erosion control, I have that
Okay.
in there as well.
Okay, because it looks like in this other previous letter from the Woodbury County Soil and Water Conservation District, whether we need to get that extensive, but they do have specific practices recommended by the Sioux City Grading Ordinance, NPDES permit number 2, erosion control measures.
And definitely the plan was much different. They definitely
Right.
associate, their original statement of a borrow pit versus the magnitude of what would be, removed from the area versus the subdivision, and looking specifically at the access road would be different in a sense, but yet still as serious in terms of having erosion control in place based on location.
And that's probably
Something that-
why with the borrow pit, there was a lot of concern
Right.
versus a lot development might not involve as much, but if proper steps are taken for that erosion control.
And
if-
I think what it is, that if you disturb more than an acre of soil, you have to have erosion control measures in
Well,
place, such as
actually,
self-fence.
You're not allowed to let any of your runoff carry soil off your
Right.
property, period.
Right.
So it doesn't even come down to an acre. So there are
Right.
provisions in there to protect and adequate steps to be taken at the time of, if it
If we
was
get
ever
to that
built.
point, this is just subdivision. This
Right
is
now,
not
there's no
development.
measures to take because there's no dirt work being done, so.
Right.
But if it got to that point, it would be imperative that they
That-
work with the county, work with the DNR, and make sure that's instituted.
On the north side of that hill, there's a terrace.
Right,
too, so
yeah, I remember. Yeah, we don't want that filled with anything.
No, but it'll help protect the water, the mud and stuff from silting into the pond.
Right, which is its purpose. Okay, so we have a motion. Did everybody understand the motion?
I did.
Comprehend? Basically following the guidelines of the secondary roads? Okay, so do we have a
I'd like to
second?
second that
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
I-
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Goes to the supervisors next, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Menard East Edition minor subdivision proposal. Dan, will you read into the record the information that we need?
Okay, the Menard East Edition, Jane E. Hickey proposes to subdivide 16.33 acres into 3 lots. This property is located in the southwest quarter of Section 34, Township 88 North, Range 47 West, Woodbury Township, Woodbury County, Iowa. GIS parcel number 884734300010. The current parent parcel and its structure are permitted under the Woodbury County zoning ordinance of 2008. This was also up for extraterritorial review. This property is less than 1 mile from Sergeant Bluff and requires the extraterritorial review under Iowa Code Section 354.9. The city of Sergeant Bluff waived rights to review the Menard East Edition with Resolution 19-14. This was published for legal notification purposes in the Sioux City Journal Legal Section on April 12, 2019. The 9 property owners within 1,000 feet and listed within the certified abstractor's affidavit were notified by letter of the public hearing. As of the printing of this packet, April 15th, Community and Economic Development Office had not received comment from any property owner owning property within 1,000 feet. Of course, when comments are received, they would be included in the record. The agency comments are also available within the packet. County Engineer Mark Nara has provided the following statement. The Secondary Road Department has reviewed the information provided for the above referenced subdivision plat. Forward with the memo dated April 2, 2019. We checked the closure of the plat and found it in compliance with the requirements for the full subdivision of 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 5,000 for each lot as required by Section 355.8 of the Iowa Code. I have not reviewed the parcel for access. The driveway to Lot 1 has adequate site distance and may be retained. When driveways for Lots 2 and 3 are requested, the owner will have to contact the Secondary Roads Department for review. The road department will check the driveways for site distance. The owner will have to contact the Farmers Drainage District since 220th Street's North Ditch district is lateral for drainage structure sizing. I do not anticipate difficulty in siting new driveways as most of this road is flat and the area meets county requirements for site distance. I have no further comments or issues with this proposal. In terms of the staff analysis, each lot of the final plat appears to meet the zoning district dimensional standards of Section 3.04 of the Woodbury County zoning ordinance. According to Section 3.01 of the ordinance, not more than 2 residences shall be allowed on any quarter section, nominally 40-acre tract. Based on this requirement, it is imperative to note that only 1 more house may be built on one of the 2 additional lots. A 3rd house may not be built in this zoning district. A successful zoning ordinance map amendment rezone from agricultural preservation to agricultural estates must occur before any building permit for a single-family dwelling is approved for a 3rd house within this quarter. Subject to public testimony, Community and Economic Development staff recommends that the Zoning Commission recommend approval for the final plat to the Board of Supervisors based on the following conditions. The owners apply for a zoning ordinance map rezone from AP to AE if they are applying to build a 3rd house in the respective location. When the driveways for lots 2 and 3 are requested, the owners will have to work through the Secondary Roads Department for formalized review and access. And the owners will also have to contact the Farmers Drainage District. The streets North Ditch is a district lateral based on County Engineer Nara's respective comments.
Commission have any questions or comments, concerns?
There's no plan to sell the 2 lots. The reason it's been done is because I had already sold some of the cropland, so it left the 16 and the 3rd acres, and now I'm moving into town to leave my big house and I'm selling that with 5 acres. So it leaves the 11 1/3 acres of cropland. And it just seemed wise, since it was just a good idea to subdivide that 11 acres. But there is no plan to sell it. It will remain in farmland. So my question is there a requirement to put driveways into it until it becomes, I mean, my children may eventually sell it?
Yes.
In response to your question, if the boards were to approve and the lots are as they are, we would administratively review them. And so if you were to come and say you would like a house on lot 2, and lot 3, we would accordingly recommend based on what is needed. So a house, we would work with secondary roads to recommend a driveway. We would work with emergency services to get a new address installed there. And so as the recommendation stated, that certain activities invoke the ordinance activities. So the house, accordingly, if a third house is requested, that's where it would trigger the rezone. We do have a requirement that we have agricultural preservation and agricultural estates in the county. And the way the ordinance is written, 2 houses are basically only allowed within the 40-acre tract of land. And so by counting up to 2 houses, it can remain as is. But when, a next activity happens where the third house, then it requires additional regulation of the rezone.
Okay, when you say 2 houses, the 1 house is already there, so you're talking about 1 house on each of these 5.5 acres, is that correct?
You
When
can
say
only go
2
one house per, only one house on each of the 2, or only one house per the 2 lots.
Right,
Yes.
Only one, there's
Right.
only
You couldn't build a house on each of the lot
One
without
lot on the
agreeing to
11
rezone.
you could build a house on lot 2 or lot 1 without going through the rezoning process. But as soon as there were to be a home, either on lot 1 or 2, if you wanted to build a third house, then you would have to rezone that property. Or if there was a house built on the property behind lots 3, 2, or 1, in that quarter section, then 1 or 2 wouldn't be able to be built on unless it was rezoned. So currently, you could build 1 more house on that 40-acre chunk of ground, the front 40. But anything beyond that would also then require to be rezoned. And to answer your question on the drives, if you don't build a house in either of those lots, there's nothing that needs to be done at this time with access to lots 1 or 2 until a permit is filed for an application for construction.
Okay. And that's all.
Over here on one,
On 1. I was backwards, sorry.
2 or 3 are the ones you can build on, but you can only build
Just 1 more home.
because there's already a house on 1.
So I really don't see a problem with this request. There's
Yeah,
no-
I was looking at it backwards, but it's as soon as 1 more home's built. If you want to clarify that with her.
I'm just saying a bunch of units.
It makes sense in the law, but you're just not trying to worry about it.
Okay.
It's gonna be beyond,
Any additional questions or comments?
I don't just,
Yeah.
I mean, all she wants to do is subdivide it, she wants to keep it in the cropland, so she doesn't even need to rezone it or worry about that. It's, at a future date, it'll be taken care of.
Right.
Yeah, and then just for the record, that's one of the things we review when a building permit is flagged. We would see, okay, there's 2 houses there. Now you would be subject to visiting the zone commission and supervisors for a rezone.
And the main thing tonight, just to make her aware of that fact, that if that comes down the road, that's what would be required.
Right, right. Okay.
Did you get to, is that all you needed to address?
Yeah, that's pretty much our
And
recommendation.
if the time comes that they go to build on one house or the other, that's the time to bring it up and say, hey, there's 2 lots there. But right now with that zoning, you can only build one on one or the other. And, otherwise you need to rezone it, so then, is there a fee for rezoning?
Well, yeah, it's on our fee schedule, and it would be very similar to notifying the public, bringing it, and bringing it to the zoning commission, and of course, the board of supervisors.
I also have a question. The comment about the notifying the farmers drainage district, that only would kick in also if there was any type of construction
Yeah,
to happen. Currently, she wouldn't be required to do anything with
Yeah.
just the subdivision.
Yeah, Mark just lays that out.
Right, I just wanted to clarify that.
As a form of awareness, if there's gonna be a major change to the structure there versus, if the whole goal is just to subdivide and, have it set up there for the future. But yeah, but if a building permit were to come in for a house and we start talking about driveway and all that, it would be imperative to involve them.
Right, right.
I do have one other thing, he says in here, when driveways for lot 2 and 3 are requested, the owner's gonna have to contact secondary roads to, how come this wasn't done prior to?
Well,
No, because
make sure that
there's no
it's-
construction.
I know there's no construction, but we're splitting this.
you don't have to request a driveway to split it.
All right.
Because they don't need it. If they need a driveway, they would have to put that request in. But right now, they might never put a driveway in.
Right.
So they don't have to request that to be reviewed until they actually come before him to request a drive, is what he's saying. And even in his comment, he doesn't foresee an issue because of the topography of the road, that they could both meet. But that's why
That was the question.
they don't have to put them in now, because they may never put them in.
Do they have farm access to it though?
That'll be,
If lot 1 is
Probably
being
not.
sold.
that'll be caught when a building.
That would be a
permit
comment that,
Or requested.
I'm Zeb Cook from Jack Cook Farms. We farm the lot 2 and 3 as it's set up there.
okay.
And we've got farm access from the north, and that's the way it's been for as many years as I've been alive or longer. So
So until there's a desire for another drive,
if
they
she
don't
wants
need,
to sell it, or if, she wants to rent it to somebody else, at that point, it would be an issue, but it's not, it hasn't been
okay, well, we
at
can,
this time, or it doesn't seem like it's going to be within years,
Thank you.
Did you have a question that you may have asked the applicant? And then just.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure they had understood what we were chatting about.
Okay, okay.
I wanted
Just,
to make sure they.
I didn't want to miss anything, so, okay, thank
I didn't
you.
want them to miss either. yeah.
Right, right, absolutely. Okay, so if we have no further questions, are we ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion.
okay.
Okay,
Is that good with you guys then?
hey Barb, let her rip.
I'd like to make a motion. On it. Well, I recommend that we agree to this request. There's no provisions as far as I can see. Do we need to add anything into it?
Just the awareness, I guess, of the fact that if it were to have more than one home built on any of the lots in the 40, that would require a rezone. If driveways are requested, that would have to be by the approval of the county engineer, and that also contact the Farmers Drainage District if any construction is ever done in the future. If that's kind of a
Got a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we have any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
And just so she's aware that, I mean, right now she's okay if something happens down the road, that would change. Or any future owners of the lots are aware of that.
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Tower Development Conditional Use Permit Proposal. Dan, would you read into the record the information required for this proposal?
Okay, this is a tower development conditional use permit request. First American Site Acquisition Incorporated, on behalf of USCOC of Greater Iowa LLC, proposes to construct a 275-foot self-supporting telecommunications tower on land leased from James G. Kirkendall and J.W. Kirkendall in the southwest quarter of Section 30, Sloan Township, on parcel number 8646 2935-1011, north of Highway 141 and east of Interstate 29 and west of Old Highway 75. This property is in the Agricultural Preservation Zoning District. The property is located in the floodplain, Zone A, and will be subject to a county floodplain development permit. The proposed use requires review by the Zoning Commission and authorization by the Board of Adjustment. This was published in the Sioux City Journal's legal section on April 19th, 2019, for the Board of Adjustment public hearing on May 6th at 6 o'clock p.m. The 655 property owners within a 1 mile radius and listed within the certified abstractors listing have been notified by letter of the public hearing before the Board of Adjustment that'll be on May 6th, 2019, with a letter that was dated April 18th, 2019. As of the printing of this packet for the Commission, the Community and Economic Development Office had not received comment from public owners owning property within 1 mile radius as the printing of this packet for the Zoning Commission. And you'll see in the packet it says, please note there is not a public hearing at the Zoning Commission, but of course this is a public meeting. The public hearing occurs at the Board of Adjustment. The stakeholder agency comments are also included within the packet. And just to kind of give some initial explanation, there's several situations that are definitely involved with the development of the tower. And one of the first comments that you see is listed by Bill Capuccio, who happens to be one of the managers for the state floodplain, who we work with quite a bit. And Bill made a comment to me on April 2nd. He said, Dan, as per our recent conversations regarding this project, your ordinance requires that the lowest flood of any building associated with the tower be elevated or flood-proof to a minimum of 1 foot above the BFE or base flood elevation. Similarly, equipment associated with the tower that is susceptible to damage by flood must be protected to a minimum 1 foot above the BFE. The tower itself, which is unlikely to be susceptible to damage by flooding, would not need to be elevated. My understanding is that the applicant hired a consultant to determine the BFE for the project site. The BFE was determined to be 1073.6 feet. NAVD 88 appears to be reasonable for that location. So we have no objections to the county using it for the floodplain permitting purposes at that location. Let me know if you have questions. County Engineer Nara provided a statement offering the following comments. He has reviewed the parcel for access. The requested driveway location is acceptable and has been permitted by my department. A copy of the permit is attached. The location on a roadway that is not regularly open to traffic and is used for land access. The applicant has requested a permit to do winter snow removal on the road to access the tower site. The Board of Supervisors approved that permit at their April 9, 2019 meeting. A copy of the permit is attached, and you will see through the packet there's paperwork involving that aspect of it. Now, it's imperative to point out that the approval of the tower per se, we're looking at this as a conditional use based on the ordinance. And so the zoning commission and board of adjustment have to look through the criteria of the Woodbury County zoning ordinance 2.02-9. And what it is this criteria is directly answered by the applicant in terms of the application. So you'll see in the packet, beginning on page 34, the applicant response to the criteria with a staff kind of response involved there, which is kind of our thoughts in terms of how it would fit with the zoning district. So this is about a tower that is involved within the zoning district. Now, over the last few years, Iowa law has definitely changed with the telecommunication industry. Iowa Code 8C has had a few changes and requirements that you will see kind of reflective in this application, and I will go over a bit of that material. And I do have a further statement to look at, mention here to you. And so kind of the staff analysis kind of goes through this set of criteria that I'm going to read off basically. And so based on the criteria as analyzed in those sections and those criteria, the staff supports the approval of the conditional use to build a tower on this property located in the agricultural preservation zoning district within the general floodplain district known as Zone A. So what we're looking at is the conditional use of having it there, as well as recognizing that the floodplain is there, and there's a floodplain development involved as well. So it is imperative to point out that criteria 1 through 5, as well as the other consideration, are the parameters from which this decision must be derived. To summarize, the conditional use permit request is for whether a telecommunications tower can be placed on this property, and approval would authorize the applicant to operate the tower as per section 3.03-4 of the Woodbury County zoning ordinance. This property is located as referred to in the agricultural preservation zoning district, as well as the general floodplain FP district, also known as Zone A within the floodplain portion of the ordinance. As previously noted, Bill Cappuccio, floodplain manager with the DNR, stated any building associated with the tower must be elevated or flood-proofed to a minimum of 1 foot above the BFE. Hence, any equipment associated with the tower that may be susceptible to the damage by the flood must be protected to the minimum of 1 foot above the BFE. Therefore, any associated structures, as noted on the construction drawing plans, must be subject to the elevation and flood-proofing as asserted by Cappuccio. The tower structure itself, as mentioned, is not subject to the elevation, and as mentioned in the supplemental information sent as well, you'll receive construction designs that will give you an idea of the structures associated. According to section 5.05-6A of the zoning ordinance, all towers shall be set back on all sides a distance equal to the drop zone or the zone district setback, whichever is greater. The height of the tower shall be measured from the grade at the foot of the base pad to the top of any telecommunications facility. Setback requirements shall be measured from the base of the tower to the property line of the tract of land on which it is located or land within an easement. The ordinance defines the term drop zone as the area within a radius of the base of the telecommunications tower specified by the professional design engineer to the limit of the physical damage from a structural failure. In the absence of a specification by a design engineer, the drop zone shall be assumed to be the circular area with radius equal to combined height of the tower and any antennas for any freestanding tower or for a guide tower, the combined length of any guide tower and the distance from the base tower to the anchor point. Based on the setback drop zone criteria, the applicant has provided documentation through their engineering company. The design engineer, Keith J. Tidwell, PE, Vice President of Telecom Engineering of Savory Industries, has certified the drop zone for this 275-foot self-support tower as a 140-foot radius. So they're defining the drop zone based on the language in the ordinance that a certified engineer provides that as 140. The zoning district setback itself would be 100 foot. Thus, the 140 setback is interpreted as the requirement based on section 5.05(2)(c). According to the submitted site plan, and we do have, of course, the attachments of the site plan, the east side yard setback is reported as plus or minus 140 feet. The front setback is reported as plus or minus 139 and 8 inches. The west side yard setback exceeds 140 as the property owner has placed a request with the Woodbury County Assessor's Office to combine parcel number 864629351011. And if you were looking at Beacon and seeing in the report, you'll see that parcel is right there next door, very close on the west side sight line. And so to remedy any situation with there being a side yard issue, the same adjacent property owner is going through to have that combined, so it's one unified parcel, which would meet the setback.
It's owned by the same property?
Yes,
Owners? Okay.
James Kirkendall will own, it does own both of those and has the authority to make the combination request to the assessor. According to section 5.05(b) of the ordinance, there is a requirement for the applicant to attempt co-location with other tower facilities within the area. And this is where we have some areas to clear up here. If the applicant is unable to co-locate, they must provide technical evidence from an engineer that the applicant's telecommunications facilities cannot be installed or co-located on another tower or usable antenna support structure. However, recent changes, 2015 to Iowa Code 8C, as I referred to before, the Uniform Rules and Limitations application concerning new tower for state, that local government authorities shall not do the following. The Iowa Code states that, again, the local authorities, the counties and cities cannot do the following. They cannot evaluate an application based on the availability of other potential locations for the placement or construction of a tower or transmission equipment. They cannot require the application to establish other options for co-location instead of the construction of a new tower or modification of an existing tower or existing base station that constitutes a substantial change to an existing tower or existing base station. Notwithstanding paragraph B, which just last sentence I read, an authority shall require an applicant applying for the construction of a new tower to provide an explanation regarding the reason for choosing the proposed location and the reason the applicant did not choose co-location. The explanation shall include a sworn statement from an individual who has the responsibility over placement of the tower, attesting that co-location within the area determined by the applicant to meet the applicant's radio frequency engineering requirements for the placement of a site would not result in the same mobile service functionality, coverage, and capacity is technically infeasible or is economically burdensome to the applicant. Hence, section 5.05(b) of the Woodbury County zoning ordinance adopted in 2008 is now, basically, there's a section there that is in conflict, that section. And so the interpretation is, with the affidavit as referred to in 8C3 of Iowa Code, the applicant's statement of location choice is what they mentioned. They would make a statement on why they chose this. So this is kind of something that eventually the county will have to look at in terms of revising and adapting to 8C of Iowa Code as things have changed since that adoption of that in 2008. And so, just a little bit more, if the siting of the tower is approved, the applicants do remain required to have their associated permits approved by all stakeholder agencies, not limited to, and some of them have been approved already. The work in right-of-way permit will need to be administered by the county engineer's office. That was accomplished and approved by the supervisors. That was accomplished on April 9th. The driveway permit will be reviewed by the county engineer. That was accomplished on March 2nd. The building permit and floodplain development permit will be reviewed by the Community and Economic Development Office. The applicants have met requirements from the Federal Aviation Administration, the FCC. The applicants have provided documentation including statement of location choice as mentioned, site plan, construction drawings, structural design report, driveway application, right-of-way application, tower designation letter, FAA determination, FCC information notice, the building permit application, the floodplain development permit application, the elevation documentation, and a certified abstractor's listing for the public notification of the May 6th Board of Adjustment meeting. And basically, the staff sees that this could be recommended to the Board of Adjustment.
Now, in the past, we have gone through each criteria and approved each criteria individually, whether we agree or not with the statements provided by the applicant. I'm assuming that was based on liability, if I remember correctly. Do we want to do the criteria individually? Approve them as a whole?
What's that?
That's your question.
Well, like you said, we've always done it in the past where we've gone through each individual one and reviewed them as they can or can't be met, basically. Maybe on this tower issue, it might be something worth looking at each one specifically,
Okay,
just to clarify.
right, for the record. Okay, so do you want to go ahead and read through the criteria and the applicant's response, the staff analysis? Do we want to go into that much detail, or just for the record, mention which criteria we're actually speaking to?
If I may, that's a good point in terms of that is what this is, that's what's being used.
Right.
Fully for the approval process.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd be happy to read what we have there.
Okay, criteria 1.
Okay, criteria 1, and just, again, I'd like to clarify that these criteria are on the application, what the applicant fills out, so I will read kind of each concept associated with criteria 1 and so on. The first criteria, the conditional use requested is authorized as a conditional use in the zoning district, within which the property is located, and that any specific conditions or standards described as part of that authorization have been or will be satisfied. This begins on section 2.02-9 of the Woodbury County zoning ordinance. The applicant has responded, telecommunication towers are allowed only as a conditional use as specified in subsection 3034. Fall zone letter from Sabry Industries states how tower will be designed. Requesting shorter fall zone because of this letter. worked with landowner on location and field to be least disruptive to farming. USCOC of Greater Siouxland obtaining right-of-way permit from county for snow removal. Frontage road is not maintained. And one of the areas staff looked at is, of course, the land use table of allowed uses summary in 3.03-4. We verified that this includes telecommunication towers as a conditional use, which allows us to review it. The zoning commission may review and has the right to review the proposal and offer recommendations to the Board of Adjustment.
Based on that information, do you want us to approve or disapprove each and every one? Do we have comments based on that information?
Do you want a motion on each one individual, or just approve them after we reviewed them?
In terms of, I believe I'd have to defer to what the board feels would be the best.
Let's do them individually, shall we?
I would motion that criteria 1 can be met and is satisfactory under the zoning regulations.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Okay, criteria 1 has been met.
Okay, criteria 2. The proposed use and development will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this ordinance and the goals, objectives, and standards of the general plan of Woodbury County. Applicant response, USCOC of Greater Iowa LLC is building into the Sioux City market. This site is part of the build plan. A new telecommunication tower requires a conditional use permit. Already existing tall structures in the area. Leasing land in Ag Zone District, which is allowed with the conditional use permit. The location is always from a ways from the zone districts. Staff comment, as the conditional use permit is included in the Agricultural Preservation Zoning District, it appears the granting of this request would or will assist with adding to the communications infrastructure of the surrounding area.
Okay, so I just want to point out maybe a correction. The location is away from residential zoning districts. Okay. Do you have any comments on that? And if not, do you agree with the,
I'll make a motion, criteria 2 has been met.
okay, we have a motion and a second?
I second that.
Okay. We have some further discussion. Okay. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, criteria 2 has been met. Criteria 3?
Okay, criteria 3, the proposed use and development will not have a substantial or undue adverse effect on adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, parking, utility facilities, and other factors affecting the public health, safety, and general welfare. The applicant responds, proposed tower, already tall structures in close proximity, grain bin, and a water tower. Location is on edge of town, close to interstate. The improved service will help provide coverage for business, personnel, 911 calls, utilizing a frontage road that has little to no traffic on it. City of Sloan has approved letter and application, obtaining right-of-way permit from county. Tower meets all FAA and FCC guidelines. There is off-road parking at tower compound. Staff analysis, the design of the property and its proposed use clearly distinguish itself as a communication structure. There are similar structures in the area, including a tower about 2,000 feet to the west along the northbound on ramp to Interstate 29 from Highway 141. The plans submitted appear to acknowledge the parameters of section 5.05 of the zoning ordinance and Iowa Code 8C.
Okay. Criteria 3, do we have any questions or comments on that portion of the application?
Motion to accept it.
Okay, criteria.
There's already structures there, so.
Okay, criteria 3, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, criteria 3 is met. Criteria 4?
Okay, criteria 4, the proposed use and development will be located, designed, constructed, and operated in such a manner that it will be compatible with the immediate neighborhood and will not interfere with the orderly use, development, and improvement of surrounding property. Applicant response, tower is strategically located in an area that will meet the customer needs in the town of Sloan and those traveling on the interstate. Construction is approximately 6 to 8 weeks, weather permitting. Then tower site is considered unmanned. Proposed location is a fixture of business and ag. Tower will provide improved service which improve communication for business personnel and safety. Staff analysis, this proposal would provide additional communication service to residents of the surrounding area. The structural analysis reports indicate that the tower will be safe for the structure and any future co-location request to add or modify equipment. The plans submitted appear to acknowledge the parameters of 5.05 of the zoning ordinance. Please note Iowa Code 8C is in conflict with 5.05-B of the zoning ordinance as referred to the changes of the law on its effective previous Berry County ordinance. This language will need to be modified in the future to reflect Iowa Code. Thus, in light of the change, Iowa Code must be followed and interpreted to allow an affidavit as referred to in Iowa Code 8C.3. See staff analysis recommendation. The applicant's statement of location choice is available for review in the attachment section.
Okay. So criteria 4, do we have any questions or comments on
I'll
that?
make a
criteria?
motion that criteria 4.
Okay, on criteria 4, we have a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further comment? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, we meet criteria 4. Criteria 5?
Okay. Number 5, essential public facilities and services will adequately serve the proposed use or development. Applicant response, USCOC of Greater Iowa LLC will have a utility easement for power and fiber. No other public facilities will be needed. Staff, once the easements are verified and recorded and other associated permits, such as Orkin right-of-way and driveway permit are granted, the structure should be adequate, or should adequately be served.
Make a motion that criteria 5 can be met.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. Any more comments, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Criteria 5, we believe, has been met. Criteria 6.
Okay, criteria 6, the proposed use or development will not necessarily result in unnecessary adverse effects upon any significant natural, scenic, or historic features of the subject property or adjacent properties. Applicant response, location is in an ag field. Already tall structures close by. Area is mixed business and agricultural. Leasing small amount of land. Existing trees help as a buffer. Staff analysis, as noted, under criteria 3, the design of the property and its proposed use clearly distinguish itself as communication structure. It appears the proposed use will not adversely impact the specific property.
Any questions or comments on criteria 6? If not, I entertain a motion.
I will make a motion on criteria 6.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, criteria 6 has been met. Other consideration, 1.
Okay, the other considerations are, number 1, the proposed use or development at the particular location is necessary or desirable to provide a service or facility that is in the public interest or will contribute to the general welfare of the neighborhood or the community. Staff analysis here alone is this conditional use permit could be interpreted as a contribution to the local communications infrastructure.
Okay. Now, do you need motions on the additional use, or can we put that in a final approval?
That can be part of it. The 6 criteria are the key that
Right.
they're following off of. These can be part of it.
Okay.
It would just depend on what the board's
Okay.
desire is with that.
Okay. Do we want to just include that in the final approval rather than individually here? Okay. Other considerations too?
Okay, all possible efforts, including building and site design, landscaping, and screening, have been undertaken to minimizing the adverse effects of the proposed use or development. As again noted, under criteria 3, the design of the property and its proposed use distinguish it as a communication structure. There are definitely similar structures in the area, including a tower about 2,000 feet to the west, along the northbound on ramp to Interstate 29 from Highway 141. The plans submitted appear to acknowledge the parameters of section 5.05 of the zoning ordinance.
Now, you've already read the staff analysis and recommendation at this point, so do we have any further comments or questions on this?
I do have some to add.
Okay.
I think it's clear, it should be clear that we acknowledge the floodplain development aspect of this as well, to coincide to support the floodplain development permit, as that's also considered a conditional use as well. So I would suggest associating the comments of Mr. Puccio from the Iowa DNR, and I know the applicant is aware from the building permit standpoint as well as the floodplain development standpoint, the structures will be, of course, subject to that part.
Okay. Okay. So,
It's probably gonna be a portable building of some sort anyway, isn't it? Typically, that's what's part of the structures. I mean, they just bring it in on a semi and set it in there.
a portable structure that's going to go along with this?
Julie?
Julie, yeah, come on up and talk to us.
Let me tell you what it's going to be. Good evening, my name is Julie Shebeck, and I am here on behalf of USCOC and LLC. Actually, they used to do shelters, they don't anymore. It's going to be a concrete pad, and then they're building outdoor cabinets. So there are 2, possibly 3, for sure 2. But they almost look like file cabinets. So that's what they'll do. So that will be the equipment, and then it'll be in close proximity to the tower. So that's how it will be.
Because as time goes on, you're condensing everything into smaller,
Yeah,
at some point in time, it's all gonna be on the tower, isn't it?
yeah. Who knows? I had people 30 years ago told me that we wouldn't have towers, and here I'm still on. So but yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons is that I think that they kind of ran out of shelters, to be honest with you. That was one of the statements that was also told to me. But yeah, that's the move right now, is going into the concrete pads and the outdoor cabinets.
And the pad would be elevated to where it would be out of the floodplain anyhow, so the equipment isn't subject to that.
And because there's something in your note that the footings of the tower will be deep enough that the flood shouldn't cause an issue for the footings. So the construction can't lean one way or the other because if it floods again.
Correct. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So based on that information and the approval of all the other criteria, do we have any motion that we would like to make at this time?
I guess I would also add to that, if, I would make a motion that we approve or recommend to the Board of Adjustment that the conditions and criteria can be met, and that we also include that they are also comply with all federal, state, and local regulations. Then with the combination of the parcels, they are then able to meet the setbacks set forth with the drop zone of the 140 feet and what we just addressed with the floodplain issues that the equipment and it's constructed in compliance with the floodplain regulations for the tower and the equipment.
Okay, good motion.
I believe I will second that motion.
Second? Okay, any further discussion on that point? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, It is going to the Board of Adjustment and the supervisors, I'm assuming, at some point in time.
That must be
Okay.
the parcel where they cut the trees down along there.
I don't know.
There's a row of trees across there, and there's a big chunk where the trees are gone.
There were some
I didn't buy them
scrappier
there.
trees kind of in the area
Yeah,
that,
because it must go, is there like a drainage ditch right through there, or some kind of a ditch?
yeah, there, I know there's like a frontage row, so over there, I don't know if there's,
I mean, because that's, when it's
taxing my
used-
memory, it's
used
been a long
equipment
time
right
since I've
there,
done
and
that.
then they must cross through where the trees are, and that's why they took the trees out, I suppose.
What's the height of that other tower over there? How do they compare? Is this much shorter?
No, they're probably very similar in height, so, they'll be probably similar in height and similar in design. Well,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hello, it's nice seeing you. Now I know
Facing a voice. You have a face to go with now.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is any citizen wishing to be heard. Seeing no other citizens in the gallery, we are going to move off on that one. And any commissioner comment or inquiry is item number 7.
Just to comment on that, I guess towers are sometimes subject to a lot of criticism, so that's why I suggested we go through each step.
Yes, I agree. I think
I didn't mean to make you talk and us sit here longer, but I've had guys
I think it's good for us.
critical of towers.
Oh, I think that's helpful, it educates everybody, and it's also important to, again, highlight how the logistics of the whole public notification and everything. Basically with Iowa code, there's a 4/20 day requirement where you have the public notices go out. And so this was posted in the Sioux City Journal to meet the requirement for the public hearing, of course, at the Board of Adjustment. And so, of course, the study, the information that is put into here, of course, is a set of recommendations. So I imagine that there will be more information heard on that.
Another thing too, like you said, we're probably going to have to address the issue where the county zoning ordinance isn't in compliance with state regulations that are now in place. That's something we'd probably have to look at.
Yes, but I'm thinking last fall when the conversation first started, I contacted the county attorney's office for some guidance in terms of where to look on this, and they have basically cited that you go with the affidavit as is required with the 8C section there, where you sign the affidavit where they state basically why they're putting it there versus before they had to have a sworn affidavit that it wouldn't work, basically. So based on that, the state code is what's followed.
So is that something that we can just have based on the county attorney's recommendation, that's going to be placed into the new, or into our current zoning ordinance for future, an amendment, just that's what we're going to follow?
Amended according to state code, I mean, as simply as possible.
And that's one of the things that we look at as we go along. We run into things where you have an idea hit right in front of you, and then you have to evaluate how the ordinance is. So we try to always take notes on things that would likely come up for a major change in the future. And remember, like last year when we did the fireworks thing, we go through kind of a process there. We basically go back to the board, study it, and see how that can fit. So we can definitely look and see, what's ahead here with 8C, because the telecommunications industry, it appears, has been very dynamic over the last several years with the way the technology has been evolving.
So do we do anything official at this point, other than be aware that there is a Iowa code change that conflicts with our zoning ordinance, or do we have to amend our zoning officially by this board to meet Iowa code?
It's probably going to be something, again, I'm going to have to talk with the attorneys, with David, with others as well, but it's going to be something likely that we'll have to
Because
make it clear.
the steps would be basically, we would recommend to the supervisors that they amend to be in compliance with the state, and then they
Right.
would make the decision and then amend the ordinance.
Yeah,
Nice.
We'd have to get, we'd have to find language that, would fit, that would fully comport with what the state is saying as well. So it could be to the nature of taking EC and even
Just
placing it in the ordinance.
Okay.
But at this point, we can operate fine in terms of, disclosing that this is the
That's
code
why-
here, this is here, and that's where we laid it out in the packet.
Okay.
Okay, good,
Point that out.
good. So we're moving forward. All right, any other comments or questions by the commission?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yay, motion approved. We're adjourned. We're adjourned.